Committee meeting of Manhattan Community Board 11. My name is Xavier Santiago. I'm the chair of CB11. This meeting is officially called order 5:37 p.m. Tonight we are joined by our district manager, Mescan, will be shortly, and our assistant district manager, Lee Nix. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. One, no one may speak until granted the floor. Two, CB11 members, if you have a question or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. You should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. Members participating via Zoom can find the raise hand button by first clicking the participant's icon to access the panel where that button is located. If you have any technical issues, please relate it your difficulties to the staff in the chat. If you guys start a discussion or to post, it should only be used. It should not be used to discuss or pose questions about agenda topics. Also, remarks bring that on the record. Please keep your questions and comments brief and to the topic of discussion. Brief, members of the Thank you. Next, we will take the roll.
Yeah. Who's taking the role? You guys gotta decide. Khalid, decide. I mean, Khalid. No pressure.
You know, members that have been here for 20 years and stuff up too, you know.
No, he's got a very. Secretary General.
Jose Altamirano,
Present.
Stephanie. Nosa Rama. Scott. Jason Villanueva,
Present.
Michelle Wiltshire Clement,
Present.
you have quorum.
The agenda. Submitted and reviewed during our full board session. Jessica Elliott, are you taking the minutes for this meeting? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
In case
It's
you didn't know.
because she's been so kind. She's been awesome. I just want to call out. Shout out.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on. The agenda tonight. This meeting and the only item we're going to be dealing with is the closure of Target. And I sent a draft letter to the executive committee, and as you know, during recess or we're placed under extreme time limits, we will act on behalf of the board. A letter was distributed to all of the board members, calling about the history of how Target came to be in East River Plaza and the statistics that were cited and how that has been inaccurate and imprecise in its justification. And then the third is a request for them to come back to the table, not close it, especially coming up with the upcoming holidays. And to add a little bit of context, we from Blumenfeld Dove Group, we have Rafaela Petrasic here, and I was wondering if you could take a few moments to give us a bit more history and detail on how this was all dropped on us last week.
It was dropped on us last week. Good everyone. I know some of you, Rafaela Petrasic, the Blumenfeld Development Group here, one of the developers of East River Plaza. I actually worked with Angel, the board, to implement sort of the community benefits for East River Plaza when we first opened, and the local hiring of the other items on that list. Target reached out to us last Tuesday, approximately an hour or two before it went public with its store closures. Not only East River Plaza, but all of the other stores that it's closing around the country. Did not give us any advance notice. Did not engage in any conversation beyond the fact that it was closing the store. And said that, we know we have time left on our lease, we will be in touch with you. And that's pretty much all they said. They did not give us an opportunity to have a conversation with them. We have noted that Target, since it opened this store here at East River Plaza, which is its traditional large format store, has opened 13 new Targets on Manhattan. All of those 13 Targets are of a smaller footprint. It is signed a lease to open a smaller footprint store on West 125th Street. We were highly offended by the fact that it gave the impression that East River Plaza is an unsafe and lawless environment. It seemed to portray that the violence at East River Plaza, lumping East River Plaza into all of the other stores, the violence there was the reason it had to take this action. It was an action out of desperation. And they decided to close for the safety of their workers and their guests. We thought that message was terribly unfair. It's an unfair characterization of East River Plaza and this community. We found it to be frankly insulting. We have said to them that we think they need to, at a minimum, apologize or at least correct the narrative that they put out there in the public about this community. We are waiting for them to get back to us to have a conversation. In the interim, we have received an outreach from other tenants who are interested in that space. So I guess that is one bright spot that they haven't scared of, everyone. So our leasing team has been, working with fielding those calls and speaking to those potential tenants. We do recognize the Target does leave a hole in this community, especially the fresh food that doesn't come in the same size and bulk as Costco. We received an outreach from Albee's who would like to step up and try to help fill that void. We're working with them on how they may be able to expand their offering and be able to, help the community on that front.
Do any board members have any questions?
How much is
Nelson?
Can you disclose how much, how long the lease was?
You mean the remaining term of their lease?
Yes.
I believe it's 17.5 years.
Is it 30?
Michelle?
Yeah,
Thank you for explaining what happened to us. I would also like to know, when you say that Always is willing to or trying to step in, is that with goods or is that really with, because there's going to be a void in people that are going to lose their jobs? And will Always step up to help find jobs for people? Because when Target said they were going to find jobs elsewhere could be a distance away from where people actually live and work or want to work and have to pay increased amounts of money in transportation. So
I believe Aldi's was reaching out in terms of the goods and services that they could provide to the community to fill that gap. I haven't even had a chance to really explore the employment side of the equation. I'm happy to ask them, but my recollection in terms of the number of employees that Target has at this location is at around 250 employees that they have left, based on my recollection of the last employment data that, I was aware of. So that's a number of individuals. I don't know that all of those individuals can be absorbed by the existing tenants of East River.
Jason, you had a question?
How much is the lease monthly?
I don't know. I can ask. They signed a 30-year lease back in 2000.
Which is, like I said, it's 13 years ago, right? Yeah.
At a minimum, yes.
Nelson.
Even before that, probably.
I spoke to an employee from Target today and they announced that Target is absorbing staffing in other Target locations in their smaller stores. And they're all going to be given the hours that they were given here. So at this point in time, based on that employee's conversation with me, it doesn't seem like anyone will be unemployed. They will be having to travel, maybe a little bit more because they used to maybe some of them within walking distance, but the good news, it's sad for us, but the good news is that it doesn't appear like at this time that people will be losing their jobs. And like with anything, although, we would love for people to be close by to their place of employment because they used to it. The silver lining, and if you can call it that at this time, is that with the holidays coming, that people will still leave these employees. will still be-
Okay, another, Michelle, your question.
I'm curious, is there a hefty penalty fee for them breaking their 17+ lease?
They are obligated to continue paying their rent at this point.
Good.
I had a conversation with David Marcus, who's part of their governmental affairs unit, and they said they were working towards transferring those employees who qualified. And that means they could not be under any type of review whatsoever. And if they are under a review, and he claimed that they would be employed, they would be paid through the end of the year. But, or transferred, if they were under any type of review, they would be released, when they close on the 21st. I've asked for a list from him on that number, although he can't divulge the individuals, but what do those numbers look like? What's the constitute? The 25th precinct is here. I don't know if you would like to add from NYPD's point of view on the amount of issues that have arisen over there at East River Plaza when it comes to petty larceny and assaults.
I'm sorry, I didn't come with the exact numbers in front of me, but, I know that every time that Target does do, a holding one is what we call it, that they catch someone stealing in their store, we do make the press 100%. So that would be petty larceny or grand larceny, depending on the amount that that person did steal. It's always addressed by us. We've done a lot from a community affairs standpoint with Target, so we're very upset to see them go. But in regards to the petty larceny, that's how we would handle it.
Not Christina Johnson.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First of all, then you don't have exact numbers. But can you tell me, has it been a large amount of that over there? Or just something that is, you know, like they can write it over? And my other question is, and this might be a little early, are there any other options on the table for a new business to take over that spot?
Well, in regards to the petty larceny, like, I know it's always like, it was a pretty much constant thing with them, but it's never anything that was like blown out of the water or anything like that, it's something that we've been in control. It's just the issue of, you know, the arrests are being made, it's just the other half of it, you know?
Do you think it's something that would require them to want to leave? Or is this just something they're just blowing up because they don't want to be here?
It could be, a reason.
Thank you, Christina. And for those that don't know, Christina Johnson is one of our new board members. Any other questions? Yes, Jose.
I mean, the timing is pretty difficult, right? This community decides, I'm happy to hear that some of the employees were still employed. Obviously, their lives will still change because now it's like a 5-minute, you know, time to get to work. It's different, right? But people adapt. But you know, for our community, the people that shop there, that went there, that regularly consume goods there, it's going to be a big, large change, right? Because Costco obviously deals in bulk. And you could go in there and you needed 2-3 things, you go in there, you get your 2-3 things out. It is concerning that they never at least tried to speak to the Blumenthal's, considering that I know that their contract would probably force them to compete in paint. So like, why would they at least wait for the holidays, let pass, or at least engage in some kind of conversation? But I mean, you don't leave in they're, you know, they're going to 125th Street and they're concerned about theft. You know, it's not, you know, that doesn't really make sense to me, but I mean, considering in the mall, you know, you're recorded as soon as you come in. Overall, I mean, as you know, we're all transparency. I work there, I have a contract with BDG for my company transportation. I provide the taxi service there, so I'm constantly there. You know, I pass there at least once a day. You know, safety, like any place, right? Because we have issues everywhere in our community. But people know there, you go in there, there's security, there's cameras, you know, people are aware of these situations. As opposed to like, you have to get to Target, you have to take an elevator, a staircase. an escalator, you're not just like running out with a 60-inch TV, because by the time you get to the street, it's a minute, you're tired, you're huffing and puffing. Over here, it's storefront, right? You're like, you're out, you're on the sidewalk, you're gone.
Jump in a car.
Yeah, it's instant. So it's a very, the message is confusing. I understand that I've heard that they're changing and we've seen that they're changing their business model, smaller stores, a lot more internet. And I wish that had been the message other than, it's just that we're completely full of theft and vandalism, and it's not, the way you go leaving our community if you choose to leave our community, right? Because it also, it's a message of who we are here in East Harlem.
Okay, yes.
And to respond to
Yes,
that,
please.
that was what our concern was, if you're making a business decision, I'm sorry, I think to us, when you look at sort of their pattern, you look at the trend of where they're going with their stores, this seems to be a business decision. Say it's a business decision, there's no reason to paint an entire community, as unsafe, and, nobody would want to be here. That seems incredibly unfair, and unjustified.
I have a question.
Yes.
So since the situation, have you spoken to your other tenants to see how they feel?
We have spoken to the other tenants, want to continue. I actually, one of the things that we do beyond just operate a mall, we've been trying to do, community events. We started in 2018, we expanded in 2019, and then COVID hit.
So what are your tenants saying?
They are saying, that they, they want to stay, they want to become involved.
They're not having the same issues that.
They are having these issues, but they're as Officer Cosby, that they're not beyond the way that it's manageable point for them. We work closely, beyond the tenants working closely with NYPD. We, as the owner and the operator of the mall, work very closely with NYPD. We actually, I believe, connected Target with the NYPD to have a paid detail there. At one point in time, they had a paid detail, they stopped paying the paid detail. I believe they brought in their own security. That the loss prevention strategy that the tenants use, that's unique to them. So that's their decision and how they handle that.
Other questions? No, somebody.
What is the mall's strategy, overall strategy for the overall safety?
We have,
Apart from the tenants.
we have security. We've also been exploring additional like security measures with cameras, robots, and things of that sort, to sort of, as things have evolved and technology has evolved, those are things we're exploring as well. I have to admit, it's been a whirlwind. I don't have all the details on those things. I'm happy to update you, Nilsa, if you want.
Is that also with the parking lot? Because I know there was a big
There's
issue.
the
with
parking garage, yes, we've been working with NYPD on the issues in the parking garage and how we can sort of address those issues. We've also spoken, there's a tenant that operates that garage.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to the tenant about additional security and how they can operate that, include security.
What's the issue?
Break-ins,
It's happening as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are there other questions? Yes, there's another question.
Is Target in any way related to Rite Aid? Because Rite Aid is also closing down all over East Harlem. And with the same issue, they're stating that the reason they're leaving also is because of that. So are they kind of related? Are they under the same parent company?
I'm not aware, I think they're two separate companies.
I just think it's, the two big chains that we have here, those are down for the same exactly. So,
So I think it would, it begs the question, is where do we need to put our focus on long-term on policy? Michelle, and then I'd like to pull up the letter.
I just wanted to add to what I had said earlier with the penalty fees. I had thought that they were bringing up this narrative previously so that they could get a reduction in penalty fees
They
on
have,
their lease. That's what was going on in my head, and that's why I asked that question.
they have not approached us on a reduction of the lease. They have not approached us on a reduction in terms of reporting of that store. They basically reached out to us a week ago before they went public and said we're closing.
And then added the narrative that,
Yes,
that's why
Yeah.
I got triggered with thinking that.
Okay, Jason?
Chair, has the board reached out to Target to
Yes.
communicate with them?
Yes, spoke to David Marcus today from Intergov. David Marcus, as I mentioned earlier, said that those employees that are not under review, meaning for they've had issues in performance evals, that they would be paid through the end of the year and or transferred. I asked for a list of employees that they are going to transfer, those that are under review, not naming who they are, but numbers, to be clear. Because that means if October 21, if say they have 50 employees and 10 are under review, that means October 21st, 10 are cut loose completely, the rest are carried until the end of the year. I've also asked if they've identified exactly where they're gonna go, and he said that that's a work in progress. And any further questions I could send via email. I asked for who's in charge, because he's in the Northeast, in charge of the Northeast, including from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, all the way up to Maine. And his Brianna Schaefer, is his boss's boss, who handles nationwide.
Did you have a conversation about why did they leave without having talking to us?
Yes, and he compared the same talking points that were in the press release. And he said that we've done an internal review and that location is hemorrhaging. I asked for the data points. He said we have to circle back and get that. And he gave me his email. And I'm gonna ask for specific data points as it relates to all the Target stores citywide. That's what I've asked for, and he said he would have to take that up the ladder. Again, he just kept saying it was above his pay grade. Above his pay grade. Yes, Jason.
Are they, I guess, there's, to the recommendations that were made, were those questions asked of him or the leadership of Target to meet with Blooming, the developer?
DDG, yes, to meet, and I asked those questions and they said that it is above his pay grade and he doesn't know whether or not those conversations were had. And that he would take it back to his higher ups and ask those questions.
I have one last question. There's no scenario where Target could keep this location, just hold it closed and you guys have no access to it? Or is there a case of that?
What do you mean by
Like,
access?
because they are the leasers, they still have a 30-year lease on that space, but they choose not to open it or use it, but they still have access to it and give you no access. Is that a scenario that can happen?
It could be, it very well could be. We do not get possession of the store back at this point in time. They're not vacating this, they're leaving the store, but they're not returning it to us. They know they have 17 years. I am not aware of what their strategy is. I don't know how they've asked for a termination. They haven't made that clear to us. I can't imagine from a business point of view that it makes sense for them to pay for an empty store for 17.5 years, but I don't
But
know.
we don't want a store that's sitting there for a year.
I completely, well, and we don't either.
Yeah.
We don't
Okay,
either.
yeah, of course.
So, I mean, you would
So maybe
think that
that's-
the whole business model would be that, they decided to close the store. At some point, whether they sublease it, they return it back to us. If we have a tenant, we go to them, we have a tenant, we figure out some termination. Those are things to be determined at this point.
They can sublease it.
I believe they may be able to. I would have to go back and check their lease. They may have a sublease clause. I can ask that. I don't know.
Rafael, on our conversations, I asked, because the commercial leasing, you have a go dark clause. Were you able to find out? If
I did not have it. I have not. I'm sorry. I'm doing too many things. I will ask if there was a go down clause. And I will also ask about the subletting, what the subletting provisions are in this as well.
So for those that don't know what the go dark clause, it basically as things start to shut down, it creates a knock-on effect of other closures
Yeah.
in the store, and turn it into basically a black hole. Yes, Jason.
I don't know if this is a question, this is more of a statement, is it? Are we getting ahead of ourselves without having Target at the table?
I asked if they would participate, and he said he would have to take that higher up, it's from his favorite.
Not according to the time. October 21st, it's in days.
Yeah, executive is,
We are full board even with a meeting for them.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I know, and our resolution is the interest of reaching out to the elected officials, which we could do without the resolution, and it's not a coordinated meeting. I'm just, it's conversational, it's fair, I mean, correct, we move, I'll vote as I deem fit.
Right. So my question is this, I was a business owner, 2 stores. And I know that when you're being robbed and you don't have, and there's sometimes not even recourse, you have to make tough decisions. My question is, the expectation to have a business open that feels that they're, for whatever reason, that they need to close, they don't have to, while it would be nice, to come to the community and say like that when they first wanted to move in and they got their lease, it would be nice for us to have known, this is unheard of when you just make a major decision like that. But it's happened with Rite Aid, it's happened with CVS Pharmacy, it's happened with King's Pharmacy, and Rite Aid on 118, so this seems to be a domino effect based on potential laws where you can steal under a certain amount and then you can just, so my question is, what is the expectation here for Target? When in reality, of course, we would like to keep Target, but in reality, Target has its own business model, and doesn't really have to clear anything with us except for community relations. And at this point, it seems like they didn't care because they just made an announcement and didn't bother worrying how it affects the community. So I echo Jason's suggestion, right, that reaching out to the electeds and Target not being here at the table. But what is it that we are looking to do? Just put our position down based on what you sent, or what is it that we're looking for?
So a couple things, that letter calls for Target to come to the table, so that's what it calls for. But right now, we have no position on it. SBI cannot because of ethics. He's already received a couple of notices that he can't come down one way or another because it's a private entity. There are similar constraints, however, within state, but not as extensive as when Rangel was there. And Rangel actually bought a lot of the incentives that we have as did our state legislators at the time with Costco and whatnot. So that now they're different. There's a different bridle on the electeds in that sense. This is what I'm saying is that we should not abdicate our responsibility by fighting for our community. And if we do so now, then at least we've drawn a line in the sand and said, listen, we need to come to the table. So if you read the letter called out the history. The second thing it called out was that misrepresentation of the stats and the justification, how it painted us as a community and as a brand. And then the third one was the ask, the request to reconsider, come back to the table. At this point, it's emails and communications. I was on the SBA's office first thing this morning. Diane and I have been going back and forth. And Serrano finally was, Rafael just confirmed that she had gotten a hold of Serrano. And these are, so that's that, to answer your question, is to stake out a position, because otherwise there's communications happening in silos and in the background, and the public has spoken. We had there was a petition out there, what was it, like 15, almost 1,600 people signed it. Yeah, that's a sizable amount, so yes.
So is the community board, the handle with the elected officials and the public and the workers looking to do some kind of release, a news release, television, some kind of press conference? Letters are great.
So
People have an option whether to read them or not. Right? People can ignore until the point of closure, right? They figure they're paying rent. Just like we have warehousing of apartments in our community, you can almost say that Target could potentially warehouse that retail space until such time. So is there thought other than this letter, or in addition to some kind of advocacy that's a more in your face, in person kind of thing?
to answer your question, there is a plan for a press conference to be held.
Okay.
Over at East River Plaza. However, us participating is contingent upon stating out a position. It is that, so
Where's
What
this
is-
letter? I've never received a
it
letter.
was emailed
I didn't see
It
it.
was, it was
Yeah.
sent.
You
It's in
guys
the
read it?
executive,
I don't
can we
have it.
pull that up? Or,
I'd love to read it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty, it's pulled out, pretty sure. I think the letter is the first step we have to do, right?
Yep, I think the letter,
Telling them, come to the table, so,
it's kind of tiny.
That's fine.
they probably see better there. Because
I only have one extra card.
we use like farm six,
Today.
I mean, I can still read it, but. So yeah, the letter is telling them to come, and then if they don't come, we'll do whatever else we choose as a position from the board, but. I mean, to Jason's point, we have to invite them to come, that's what the letter's saying, please come.
You add as.
We could do that.
Oh, I thought you had.
no,
Oh, okay.
and, Angel, you can go and accept those changes. They streamline, or I can. Hold on.
Angel, could you read that for us? Some of them can't read it.
No. Oh, gosh.
He did even.
I would even read it. It was my little tiny.
Unless we said it.
Nobody came to speak, right?
Yep. So I just want everyone to see this is the current draft, get feedback before I then go to any questions from those in attendance.
I read it already.
Yes,
I was just asking if, as well as could be, the as could be added before closing.
say that again.
It's a grammatical as well as clothing and appliances after qualified goods, comma, as well as, it says as well clothing.
It's just a small thing,
There you go.
but, I'm sorry.
Go on. Yeah, well,
Grammar was,
did you say that again, Michelle?
it's already up, it's fixed.
It's already fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Does
a-
anyone have any questions? Yes, Nelson.
Who's the predecessor to Brian Cornell?
Let me get it pulled up. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to do that.
Thank you, that was the second.
Same point, he's gone.
Yes, it is,
Why, he's gone?
because the names are important.
Not really. He's no longer there.
We
It's
know
whoever's there that's gonna be.
That was the only reason that they're closing? or
They
is there-
claimed assault, right, was one of the, that was dangerous. They threatened.
Complaints from their employees and there's the loss of revenue that people aren't actually going into the store and purchasing.
However, if you look at their social media standpoint, I looked at a whole bunch today and it really depends on who paints the picture. And when you looked at the actual numbers of a few of them, it looked like it wasn't it balanced out. It wasn't an extreme change as it was depicted in a lot of the videos where people like running with big packages and
Yeah.
this, it was almost comical over the top.
And that's why it's important, I'm sorry, Chair, if you don't mind, it's important to know the expense of the money that they're spending on their lease. Because that may be the conversation that is, again, outside the purview of this board, that's between the developer and the tenant, because if, I don't know, example given, they're paying $50,000 a month. And they could go to the west side and pay $10,000 a month. It's a capitalist country. I'm not getting involved in, in trying to tell a corporation how to do their business. I do understand the concerns. It was brought to us that it was an issue with rezoning. And as it stands as land use chair, that's not what I hear. So, that's the question. The developer has already attested that they cannot answer that question. So, we'll proceed as you deem fit, Chair.
Yeah.
What land use issue are they claiming?
I'm not clear on
That it had to do with the reason that you obtained the property was for tax credits. That's where I'm at, sorry, smartphone. I lost my thought. It's all right. It's not, we can talk further, but the argument is that apparently if Target leaves, and I don't know this to be true because it's here saying I have every right to not share that source. That they're stating that it's an issue that I guess from the rezoning or whatever it was for you to obtain the property, it was through the advocacy of Target. That apparently if Target's there, you're getting some type of benefit or credit. if Target is not there, are you affected? And if it's not, then that's where I don't necessarily see the public input, except for the outcry that we are losing the store. And again, then that my logic says for us to be unbiased, I have that concern for every business in East Harlem. It's not just Target that I'm personally, that I'm on this board for. I'm concerned there are a substantial amount of businesses, storefronts that are closing daily in East Harlem. And there's two parts to it. Yeah, it's the theft or whatever, and everyone's stealing, the police can't do their job because the politics is they're stating, but there's also the other fact. The same thing right here, that nobody's gotta go to the store anymore. And maybe that's changing. We are willing to adapt, and then I can have a conversation with elected officials to draft new policy and focus on the resolution towards the bigger picture, or as being said, this is the trendy conception, then we'll deal with Target.
I mean, I could say that, I
Hold on,
started,
one at a
I
time.
started, could I respond real quick to that? Cause I started there, just to clarify something, I started, I know, but it's the answer to his question, his comment. I started there before Target, actually Costco was the first time there, there was no Target there.
Yep.
And I was there, so it's kind of hard for them, or whoever it is, to kind of claim that. Since, you know, they weren't there,
Costco was the one.
Costco was the first, I think Home Depot initially was the first one, and then it was.
Costco, so historically,
My
Costco, it
apologies.
used to be a factory, as a lot of you know.
It was the washer and wire factor,
Okay.
it was a brownfield, we cleaned up the brownfield.
It was a dog fight place.
We, well, it was a brownfield. We did a brownfield cleanup program, we did a voluntary cleanup program with the state of New York, it was under the brownfield, program with the state. Coordinated with the city. Costco was the first, actually, the very first tenant that had originally come to the area was going to be Home Depot. And then Costco took over the Home Depot space.
Right.
Target came after Costco in terms of the opening. Costco did open first. Target
Yes.
opened, Costco opened in 2009. Target opened in 2010. The zoning was done in the early 2000s. It was not based on Target being a tenant.
Interesting.
Target was
That
not.
wasn't what was sent to us. That's good. Thank you. for
I mean,
that.
and Jason, if you have any questions about zoning, that's actually what I handle. Well, actually,
I
it's a
know,
lot of
and I
different
do too,
things.
as the chair. of the
Yes,
board, so
but if
I'm-
you had zoning questions, it was
Mine's
not
part of it.
the rezoning of the property was not predicated on a Target
Excellent.
tenancy.
Thank you for that.
And I think real quick, because I'm gonna go to Jess, and I want us to address the letter, and then I'll take some comments from any board members in attendance.
Yep.
But it was part of the Empire Zone, and
The whole, areas, and the benefits that we have at East River Plaza were all as of right benefits. It's an ICIP, so that's available to any development above 96th Street. There is nothing unique. It's not, we weren't afforded those benefits. You just apply for those benefits and you're making an investment and it's an as of right benefit. The area was in an Empire Zone at one point in time. That program has expired. That was a state program. It was also, obviously, it's in the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, which pretty much that has also ceased to be. So everything that we got was as of right through those various programs that were in place at the time.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Jess.
Just, just a really quick comment, and then I'll get into the letter. I just, to your point, Michelle, and the like, sort of framing of this issue, like nationally, it seemed, I've reviewed this letter and I think we're on the right track here, but it does seem like a coordinated sort of effort that, of course, it would have made more sense as a business decision, as we've all been talking about, for them to have come to the table before they made a decision like this. So it doesn't, none of that really makes sense to me. And I'm not a business owner in that way or have made any of these kinds of decisions, but it seems like there was a national sort of framing of this happening across left-leaning cities that makes it feel less specific to our issues in the neighborhood. But in regards to the letter, I was working with Xavier on this earlier, and I think it addresses all the concerns.
So again, just to recap, if there are no other questions, the first one lays out the background. So establishing what those relationships were, what it served. And I dropped in previous CEO during that tenure. He ended in 2010, shortly after its opening. When I addressed the news and calling out the discrepancies and how they use that in the press statement as a justification. Also to calling out the lease and how it's harming our brand. And also causing trauma to this community right before the holidays, because a lot of families go there to go for Thanksgiving, Christmas. And then the final paragraph is calling, saying that we're not gonna abdicate. And we're asking them to come to the table, reconsider this, the closure. And find a tenable pathway forward, working with all the stakeholders. And then we can actually come together and address the systemic issues impacting our state and city. So that's really it. And you have a question?
Motion.
Okay, I had one hand raised, I think, and we've recognized other non-committee members, so out of courtesy. Sage, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to say I am a little disappointed in our approach right now. I think we could be doing a lot more. I think we could be using our powers differently. I think the letter is a nice gesture, as I indicate in the statement that I've written on it. But I think we could do a lot more because this is just politics. Obviously, it's a business decision that they've made. Obviously, it's a national thing. But the reason they picked East Harlem is because East Harlem is unable to counter their actions. A number of stores that they had to close of some financial reasons, and they picked East Harlem because they knew that they wouldn't receive as much opposition to closing the store as they would if they closed, the one in West Harlem on 125th Street, or locations in other cities or other neighborhoods. And so I think it's important that we use other tools at our disposal in order to incentivize people to really change their minds, instead of just writing a letter that says what the issue is. All the letter does, it's just asking for a favor. That's not going to do anything. It's nice, but if we actually want Target to stay, then we need to do a lot more, and we can do a lot more. So my question is, why aren't we doing more?
What's the more?
Questions, raise your hand so I can see you. Nilsa had hers, and then I'll go to them, and then.
Well, before I ask my question, Sage said we could do more, so as chair, you might want to ask what his ideas are to do that, and I'll ask my question.
All right, so Sage, if you could bullet point, because I haven't been able to digest what you sent across, because it came across right at the beginning of starting. Bullet point what you think. Summarize tightly for us, because we have parts coming up and I'm trying to be efficient. I appreciate you taking the effort. Let that be expressed first. You're taking the effort, so please, if you can bullet point.
I think if we attach this to your project that the city is prioritizing a little bit more, I guess the thesis of strategy is to leverage institutional power to get a more powerful institution than the community board to advocate and allocate its resources to making sure Target doesn't leave. The community board, it's unfortunate, but the reality is that it's not the most powerful institution in the world. Do a lot. I couldn't hear what you just said.
No, just keep summarize. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, somebody else who's more powerful than us to advocate our interests because it aligned with their interests.
All right.
I can't really hear when people jump in.
Yeah, guys,
but I'm saying we should
go on.
if we attach this to something like the Timbali's Terrace project and say we will support that as long as the city delivers to Target what it needs to stay here, then I think the Timbali's Terrace people, the city, Lantern, the community will get together and say, hey, we really need Target here. Because right now it's just a couple angry residents and a community board without doing anything. So let's take something that we have power something with and attach it to situation.
Okay, Nilsa had your question, please. Thank you, Sage.
I just had, I think in there, it says throughout New York, I think you have to say throughout New York and all of the United States. And I think that when it says East Harlem and, wait, here, the location at Lenox and 125th, that location is not open yet. is it?
Are you answering?
It is not.
So that's why the sentence says, the claim that our community is suffering more than the new location at 125th Street and Lenox Avenue, there is no location there at this time. So that, that's a potential site that they were looking for, and they have the bid that helps support more kind of oversight. But that site is not there right now. The site is East Harlem. And the site that what I will go after is finding out what are the stats that the corporate board used to say that this and other stores should have been closed. Because right now, we are fighting against something that we have no information for. We know that the police are called, we know that there are events that happen, we see the news, we see what's happening, but what in particular caused after a 10+ years in this community that all of a sudden this had to be done like right away? And I think that somewhere along that letter, the point has to be that there has to be some accountability to the community. They don't have to. This is a private company. We want them to come to the table. We want them here. Our organization was the one that worked with Costco in addition to other not-for-profits to give out memberships. Everyone knows that. And so our organization is very invested in East River, right? Like seeing what comes in. It's been terrible when Old Navy left. There wasn't an outcry when Old Navy left. When other stores were in East River Plaza, this community, Applebee's, I did not hear this outcry. So if we are trying to do something, we need to know the facts so that we know how we respond. Because right now, we're flying blind.
Okay, so then to that end, perhaps adding right after a more consumer-friendly store at East River, perhaps stating to that end, please provide your internal data points to help those conversations.
That's whatever tipped it to close here, right? I believe that what could have happened was that the corporate board saw some, whatever hemorrhaging they feel, based on their bottom lines across the nation, had a yardstick, put us against it, and thought about, well, if we're gonna open up a new store, a potential new store in the future, maybe it's cheaper to salvage and pay the rent than to pay people, pay insurance, pay everything else you have to pay. We can do it for 17 years. We can't do it 17 years with a full store. That's what we need to find out.
Six, just real quick, we're about to butt EOSP. Steph, and then I know Dan had his hand up in the Michelle.
So
No. Yes.
I
Hold on.
thought my question was going to be answered. What's the point of letting us questions if,
I'd be happy to answer your question.
though I agree with what
read-
Nilsa said, and I want to point out that I left a comment on the letter about Target's internal statistics.
So I'm going to, yes, and I know, you've been heard. We have a limited amount of time and I need, the floor is recognized by Steph.
So I looked at the comments you made, Sage. I think there's a misunderstanding as to who has control over this. This is a private entity. HPD does not have control over this property at all. So anything that we're going to HPD saying, can we use symbolic, if you want symbolic terrorists, then keep Target, is not something that they have jurisdiction over. So that's not something that we can even ask for. I understand.
It's not about jurisdiction, it's about power. It is about
They don't
HPD
have power.
representing the city. They have soft
Sage.
power.
They don't have power over a
They
property.
are
That's
city.
not, it's not HPD property.
All right, Sage. I'm gonna have a conversation with you. I'm pleased to do it. At this stage, we're asking them to come to the table. They can say no, they can say yes. We can ask for the data. That is what the power we hold, and all the electeds that say the board needs to stake out a position, including the VP's office. That's that simple. It's the way we're structured, but I'm very pleased to continue the conversation in the interest of time. And Dan, Michelle.
Wait, and then.
Yes, sorry, you had a question. Yeah.
One more point. I'm worried that we are not putting in this letter. I'm worried that Target will have authority over this space for 17 years or even another year and just leave it abandoned And that's my worry, and I don't know if we can put that in this letter, or if we have authority to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like to make sure that they respond to us.
If the committee is pleased with me finding along with Angel a space for that to include that note.
Here, here.
Or about the concern of warehousing, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, we'll make a note on that, Dan and Michelle.
I think Nilsson made a good point. The fact that they're moving to an area where shoplifting is possibly worse tells me that, not to say that shoplifting isn't a problem here, but is not the reason they're closing. They are probably not making money there, and a company like Target is going to rather say something like this, as any company would, like, not that our businesses are failing in certain areas, but find a reason. And they have a good reason. It was very easy to lump it in and go, there is shoplifting going on. I mean, anyone who says that they're surprised about this, I mean, if you've been going to this Target since it's open, it's a totally different store. There used to be like one security guard there. Now it's like there are more cops there than on the street, and you need to get toothpaste from lockup. You can't run a store that way. I go there, if I gotta wait 10 minutes to buy toothpaste, I'm leaving. We go into the store and we see it busy sometimes, it doesn't mean they're making money. And the problem is, they don't have to tell us anything. I think Stephanie's hitting the nail on the head there. And if we get too demanding, they clearly didn't want to talk much to begin with. We keep going, well, why didn't they come and sit with us? Well, maybe they'd fear this kind of response, right? We're not in a position of that much power here as anybody, right? It would actually be a scary world to live in if you opened a business and you had to really answer all these questions if you weren't making money. We can remember, though, that they really wanted to come here really badly in the beginning, and this was the first place they came in Manhattan. But I think the most diplomatic and smartest way to do this would be to see if we could get them to be a little bit more transparent. Because if we could get to the heart of what the issues really are, then maybe there's a solution. But the fact that they're going to 125th and Lenox tells me this. There's a lot more commercial viability there. They're going to do better there. And they're not worried about the shoplifting, because you know what, let's be honest, Costco doesn't have a rocket science idea on how to stop shoplifting. They funnel everything out. Target could do the same thing. The reason why Costco's not going anywhere is because you find me another place in Manhattan where Costco can relocate. They have a different model. So we need to find out what the real reason is. I think they're not making money there. And then if we could figure out how there could be a solution, downsize the store, this and that might be a discussion. Even that's a Hail Mary, but we got to change the narrative a little bit.
Yeah, Michelle, and we're at 6:39, so.
And that is the whole point, that they do want to downsize the store. They do want to change their whole way that they do business, that the footprint is changing, and they figured go from a huge store to a small store with less ways of expenditure, and we're fine. And that's why they chose, because it's a very short distance from where they are now to 125th Street. It's the same neighborhood where they'll get the same type of people that want them, and they'll be able to do the same type of business, which makes the whole thing like they still want us, they still want our money, but they want it at a cheaper price.
Yeah, so real quick, and just to clarify, I think it would be remiss, because land use is a separate committee that has to handle the issue with Tamale Terrace, and attaching anything prematurely before they have finished their process would be irresponsible at this point. But I appreciate anyone and everyone's ideas. So you got a question, and then we'll move to
Just the
all the questions.
transparency, bring them to the table so we can see what really is, like, all the reasons, and then if there perhaps are the solution in downsizing, but like also like making it at least so that there, but you can still have access to like the what is it, the people that don't pick up for you, the Instacart. At least those people can have access to the store and can pick up for this side of volume. At least if it's open and downsized and everything is just like kind of pick up and that. You know, again, it will be a completely different model, but if they really want to stay and they're open to that.
That's my idea. That's my idea percent. Jose, since 6:30.
So you're doing this motion?
Jose is getting the motion to support the letter as is without one inclusion. Jess?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? You abstain? The motion carries.
Can
Please
I
leave that.
make one of,
No, I the developer could get us the lease, cost, and well, I'll entertain it if we want.
just a really quick announcement while we have the leaders of the board in this room and we've been on this meeting where you know, the crosstalk, it's really a problem. Like if you're on the webinar and you're trying to hear someone who's talking and someone's having a side conversation over here or even over here, over there, the bathroom door is left open, like it prevents people from being able to hear and participate in our meeting. So if we could all just only speak when we are recognized, and if we want to have crosstalk conversations, please exit the room so that we can continue our meeting.
Thank you, Jess.
Sorry,
She and I have had many conversations and we both. said it,
anxiety is
so-
through my roof.
We're gonna ask respectfully and remind, and we've been doing good jobs, but sometimes when it gets impacted, we go back to our old MO. So that's it. So you're gonna hear from both Jess and I as we.
Yeah, we're just getting used to this.
Yep,
now.
understand.
And it's just, the owl otherwise spins around like.
I got
crazy.
it
So
over to sit away
with
from
that,
this.
is there any new business?
No.
Any old business?
No.
Motion to adjourn?
Here.
So we'll bring that, yes, second by Michelle. All those in favor?